Hello, welcome to Hanabi by Example. Today's example comes from the 9th of August 2021 in the regular Monday night game hosted by Mark Magis on Twitch. Definitely, if this is the sort of thing that interests you, stop by on Monday and maybe join in. Every Monday, we're definitely playing. So this particular example is interesting because McMullen starts the play. New cards are on the left-hand side of the hands. Old cards are on the right-hand side of the hands. It's turn one, and McMullen has a choice to make. And that choice is, which one of the many, many good clues that can be given should McMullen give? Now would be a great time to just click pause, think about what you would do confronted by this set of hands, and make a choice about what you would play. So just click pause, and then we'll continue together in a moment. Welcome back. So so there are lots of good choices here. And the first and most obvious one is maybe to think about cluing ones to Mark Magis. Another one, which is the one that McMullen actually chose, is to clue blue to Thopter Spy. And by cluing blue to Thopter Spy, McMullen was encouraging Mark Magis to play the first card blind, thinking that it would be a blue one, because otherwise Thopter Spy would misplay on Thopter Spy's turn. And sure enough, it is. And this is just a standard, straightforward finesse, which is covered in another video. Now, every clue that McMullen could have given is probably going to work out on this particular arrangement of the cards. But this blue clue doesn't necessarily help tell the story of the hand that's going on here. And the story here is that from McMullen's position, McMullen can actually see every purple card. Purple 1, purple 2, purple 3s, purple 4s, purple 5. And so McMullen knows something that the rest of the team doesn't. McMullen knows that purples can actually be completely played out. And no other person has that information because every other player is holding a purple card and doesn't know that purples are playable. Now, you might also notice McMullen can see all the red cards, red 1, red 2, red 3, red 4, red 5. And that's another thing that McMullen knows that no one else knows at the table. And when we're choosing what to do, one thing that we want to do is choose clues that help tell a story to everyone who's on the same team so that we choose a good line through the hand together. Now, so what's the best way for McMullen to actually get purple cards played? Like, let's start there. Like, if McMullen wanted to tell the purple story, we'll get to the red story later. Let's focus on purple. What's the best clue for getting purple cards played? Just take a moment, think about it. Oh, so you might have jumped back and thought that, well, maybe the best way of actually telling this story is to clue ones to Mark Magis. And you might be thinking that because that's the clue that's going to get this purple one played the soonest. And the reason it's going to get the purple one played the soonest is that Mark Magis can look and can see that it would be possible to get this one played by cluing blue to Thopter Spy or purple to Iggy. And because that would get this one played, it means that the deeper one in the hand is much more likely to be a match for one of these two twos. Because if the first one were purple, the purples would be clued. If the first one were blue, the blues would be clued. So this one is much more likely to be a match for one of those twos. And so Mark Magis would very likely play this card. And by playing this card, it gets purples started off right away. But the problem with this line is that it doesn't actually communicate purples to Iggy in a strong way. Iggy is now looking at the hands, and Iggy can't see all the purples. Iggy can see a lot of reds, but Iggy can't see the purples. And McMullen knew that Iggy wouldn't be able to see the purples. Like, if this ones clue had been given, then Iggy wouldn't know about those purples. And so it would be very reasonable for Iggy here to look at the hand and think, well, there's no purple 2 to clue. Looks like the best thing to do is to clue red. And this isn't bad. This is certainly going to get This is going to get the two ones played. It's also going to get reds played. But that's not what we're talking about in this example. What we're trying to look for is if we're playing in McMullen's seed, and if we're trying to choose how to get purples played quickly, like how do we actually go about doing that? And there's actually another easy way of talking about purples. And that easy way is to actually just clue purples to Iggy Two-Foots. And the reason that that's good is that Mark Magus, as before, is going to think, okay, well, I should play my first card. It's probably a purple one. Plays it, discovers that it isn't a purple one. But now the situation is completely different. Now Iggy knows about the purples because Iggy can actually see both purple threes. Iggy knows that a purple two is held because if this were a purple one, then then Mark Magus wouldn't have played. Iggy knows that the second card in the hand must surely be a purple five because Iggy can see both purple fours, Iggy can see both purple threes, and otherwise there's not a great deal of reason to be cluing purple. Like it can't be purple two, purple one. That would be a little silly. So so now Iggy is really well positioned to completely understand the story at the table. This clue doesn't just talk about the blue one. It doesn't just talk about the blue two. This actually talks about all the purple cards at the table. And so here it's reasonable for Iggy to think that actually what's important is to start play on purple and to maybe just clue the purple one. And it might be reasonable for Pursued here to think, oh, like the story is about purple, but I don't really have anything good to say. Maybe Pursued by Bear clues McMullen's ones as a way of cluing two cards. And maybe Pursued by Bear does that because Pursued by Bear knows that cluing the red two in Mark Magus' hand might be distracting from working on purples. And Pursued by Bear can reasonably think that all of the purples are held. And it doesn't matter if Pursued by Bear wanted to clue reds, it would be materially the same. So you know it's really maybe up to Pursued by Bear which to do. Let's suppose that let's go with ones to McMullen for now. Um, then Thopter Spy here has a similar opportunity, and that's to talk about purple, to clue purple to Mark Magus. And this now has clearly identified to all of the players that where the purple one is, where the purple two is, where the purple three is, because this purple clue is clearly a prompt on the four. And so it tells Pursued by Bear, you must be able to figure out where your purple card is. And that place would be the newest position in the hand. And Iggy already knows where the purple five is. So this is completely communicated where all of these cards are in the hand. And you can imagine McMullen playing. Um, you can imagine McMullen playing. You can imagine Mark playing. You can imagine Iggy playing. You can imagine Pursued by Bear playing. you, you, and then you can. Thopter Spy is going to have some other action to take. At this point, all we could really say is maybe it's this. It's cluing the next playable red card to Mark Magus. But it could be that it might be that there's some other good card out there that we would want to talk about. McMullen might play, Mark Magus might play, and then we would play out fives. And you can see that this situation is quite good for the team. 4 clues have been used, 8 cards have been played, and there's still 1 card that's been touched. And the that means that for this no variant game, basically for the rest of the entire game, the team could just point at individual cards. There's no need to do anything that's difficult or stressful. But the game is essentially, for the most part, won. And I think that if you go through and you play through the game from this point, you'll see how well that holds. So let's just jump back to the beginning. And often it's a good idea when you find one way to tell a story, maybe you should look for other ways to tell the same story. And McMullen has one of those. That one is to actually clue purple to Thopter Spy. And some of you may have noticed this. And you might have thought, well, this is great. This is like a triple finesse. It makes Mark Magus think that this is a purple one. And because of the nature of this clue, Iggy and Pursued by Bear are going to know about the locations of the purple two and the purple three. Mark Magus might play, and now it's Iggy's turn again. Now notice there's a slight difference here. Iggy does know that purples are important, but Iggy doesn't yet know the location of the purple five. So this doesn't tell the story in quite as strong a way, but it does tell the story in a pretty powerful way. And you can easily imagine that Iggy would still find the same clue, cluing one to Mark Magus. Similarly, Pursued by Bear might have the same choice, and let's have Pursued make the other choice this time and clue red to Mark Magus. Thopter Spy might play to the red finesse, and then McMullen here has a choice about what to do. And the probable choice here is to identify where the fives are, where that purple five is. And because this line is so strong, this is a strong indicator to Iggy that this is a playable five and that it's purple. Now, McMullen could give the clue as purple instead, but I think fives here should be taken as a play clue, just due to the speed at which purple was actually clued towards. You can imagine Mark Magus playing, Iggy playing, Pursued by Bear playing, Thopter Spy playing, back to McMullen. Perhaps McMullen clues red to Iggy. Because taking advantage of the identification of the fives, Mark Magus might play, and then here Iggy, for the sake of the example, might choose to play the purple five. And one thing I'd point out here is that you might think that this example, that this sequence, starting with that sort of deep triple finesse, is inherently better, like more efficient. But as with the last example, this is turn 14, and there are actually 4 clues available. And the only difference is that here 2 cards have been touched instead of 1 card. Now, this does a nice job of getting the story to be about red and continuing the play by playing into reds. But it's not significantly more valuable than the earlier sequence where purples were clued directly to Iggy. And so really the decision about which direction to go there might be to think about, well, which sequence actually tells the stronger story. And touching those 2 purple cards in Iggy's hand, it tells a slightly stronger story about purple. And this sequence tells a slightly stronger story about purple and red. And choosing which of those stories to tell is probably one of the critical things that could be decided in that initial moment in the game. And just to remind you, that initial moment in the game was blue. And the disadvantage of blue here is not that it loses the game. It doesn't. No matter what you do here, you're going to win the game because there are just so many playable cards. Like, this is not a very difficult board. What this blue clue does is it starts telling a story that doesn't go on for a long time. It just says, play these 2 blue cards. Whereas playing in purple or playing in red actually tells a long story. Here's what the whole team is going to do for the next 2 or 3 rounds. And at the end of it, the team is going to be in a very good, and I would say, winning position. So that's the example for the day. One thing that I'd encourage you to do is just go out, find this game, go through the game again, and think, what would you do if you wanted to get red played? Like, what's the best way to actually get red played first? Imagine that the purple cards weren't quite this nice, and then ask yourself, well, what if I wanted to get red played as quickly as possible? How would I actually go about doing that in an efficient way if you started off from McMullen's seat? So thank you for listening. If you like this, leave me a comment down below to let me know that you enjoyed it. And I'll include links to both my Twitch stream and also Mark's. Definitely stop by and say hello or join in if you enjoy the game of Hanabi. Thank you.